Alright, so welcome back to the tutorial series on FirePro modding. Um, we're going to be working with the First Blood match. I'm just going to show you a couple of things. This video should be pretty short. I really just want to show you a couple of things dealing with turning it off for death matches, because like I mentioned at the end of the last video, it doesn't really make any sense to have a barbed wire First Blood match. So we've gone and added, if you can see, these no deathmatch statements, and I'll walk you through those. I'll probably end up retyping them just so that you can watch it better. We also fixed an oversight in the last bit of code. When I did the setup match or the set match rules method, I did not include a qualifier. So it will literally do that to every single match that you have. And really, you don't want that. If you don't want to have a First Blood match, but you want to have a tag team match, in the old version, that tag team match would always be a tornado match as long as the First Blood mod was patched in. Well, we don't want that. So we need to add a qualifier to make sure that the user wants to have a First Blood match. We also need to add a qualifier to it to exclude Battle Royals so it doesn't mess with the settings during Battle Royals. So we're going to do those two things today, and then I'm going to show you how to hook this into the mod suite. Let's say you wanted to make a version that was dependent on the mod suite to use things like the blood levels that are included in the mod suite, so that maybe it didn't end the match for the first two stages of bleeding because they're minor. But then when they hit the third stage of bleeding, which is the default FirePro stage, then the match would end. So that's what we're going to do today. So to stop the death matches, what you're going to want to do is create a statement that we're going to paste all over the code. It's going to be the same statement everywhere, so there is no need to not to just copy and paste it. But the statement is if global work, because that's where all the match settings are found, remember, .inst .match setting .arena. And we use arena because the barbed wire ring, the deathmatch rings, the cage rings, all of those are that's where all of that information is stored. So when you're using the cage arena, it's the only place you could select that, at least as far as FirePro knows, is in a cage match. So it tells the match settings that you're having a cage match. So we want to access that arena information and say if the arena equals venueenum.barbedwire for a barbed wire match, or, and that the double vertical line, or vertical line, that you can get by shift /, that is the OR statement in C#. So if you're writing an if statement and you want to include more than one qualifier, you can use that. It's just two shift / characters, two vertical lines, and that means OR. But then you have to write out the entire thing again. You have to go global work .inst .match setting.arena equals venueenum.cage. We don't want it to happen in cage matches. Or global work .inst .match setting.arena. Doesn't work if I put a comma in. Equals venueenum.dodecagon. We don't want it to happen in the UFC fights. Or you know what? Let's leave it for the UFC fights. Somebody might want a First Blood UFC. So global work .inst .match setting.arena equals venueenum, and then there's going to be two more. We're going to want to do it for the landmine barbed wire and the landmine fluorescent lamp. So global work.inst dot match setting dot arena equals global or venue enum fluorescent lamp. And then you add your curly brackets to enclose the if statement, and then you just return false. And that's pretty much all you need to get it to work. I could get rid of this one here, which doesn't actually include the cage, but I did mean to, so I just overlooked it when I wrote the previous statement. So then you're going to want to copy that. Don't cut it, just copy it. And you're going to want to come down here, and anywhere where we're checking for Battle Royal, you're also going to want to check for these new deathmatch statements. And if you're in a void, you need to just remove the false from the statement. It'll turn red. You'll get a red line under return because a void is not expecting you to return any value. So the false won't be necessary there. But it's still easier to just cut it with the false and paste it. So we need it in there. Okay, so that puts it in the two checks so that it just quits, it just returns if you're doing a deathmatch. And that's what we want. So that is good. And then in the set match rules, what we're going to need to do, and let me get rid of this because I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch. I just already threw it in so that I would be looking at it so I would remember it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go if, and remember how to check for the checkbox, it is match selection form dot instance dot checkbox 1 dot checked. And then what you're going to want to do is take all of the stuff that you had before and cut it and paste it into the if statement. That way those commands only run if the checkbox is checked. And so that will only run if the user wants to have a first blood match. So that's an oversight that I made last time. And another oversight that I made is that I did not exit out of this setup match rules for battle royals. So we're going to do that real quick. So if global work and we haven't defined the match setting, we haven't done the M setting yet, so we actually just have to type out the whole thing. If global work inst match setting dot battle royal kind, oh, not arena, battle royal kind equals battle royal kind enum off, and we want does not equal, not equals, return. That way it doesn't continue to run if you're running a battle royal. It doesn't even bother to check if the box is checked because there is no. I explained that I don't program generally for battle royals in when doing these special match types because eliminations make these special match types go nuts. So there is that. So that takes care of the two oversights that we had on the last bit of code in the original version, the original tutorial. And now what I want to set up here is a statement that if you have the first blood match checked and you're trying to run a death match, it says nope and changes it back to a regular match. So that's this code here, and like I said, I'm gonna type it out from scratch, so we'll just go ahead and I'll leave it so that I can easily reference it, but I'll get rid of it afterwards. So it's if M setting arena, so we're basically going back through that global work thing where we picked out all the arenas we didn't want to have. Equals venue enum dot barbed wire, we didn't want the barbed wire, or M setting dot arena equals venue enum dot what else did we do, cage, or M setting dot arena equals venue enum dot landmine barbed wire, or M setting dot arena equals venue enum landmine fluorescent lamp, and then we're going to need the curly bracket so that we can enclose our if statement, and then we're just going to go msetting dot arena equals venueenum dot Urakuan Hall. So that will just set the arena back to Urakuan Hall. We don't need equals, that's why it's in red. Just single equals there. But yeah, basically what we're trying to do is just set the match setting back to Urakuan Hall if the checkbox is checked. That way it just becomes a normal match again. That's a simple way of doing it, is just giving the user no option. Well, let's say you wanted to give the user the option to either keep running the deathmatch without the first blood stipulation or change the arena. So let's go ahead and give the user an option. So here is, we're going to check for any of these deathmatch kinds, and if they are true, we will go dialog result equals. Our dialog result, we got to give it a name. Result equals message box.show, and then you're going to need to type in a message to the user. So let's say you cannot combine death matches with first blood. Please press OK to continue with a first blood match in Urakuan Hall, or cancel to continue with a death match without first blood rules. Okay, so that's the message it's going to display to the user, and then what you're going to need to do is give the message box a title, so what it will display in the little menu or in the title bar. I'm going to call this rules conflict detected. And then you're going to need to set up which message box buttons it has. So when you hit comma, it will automatically bring up in your context menu message box buttons. You're going to click that, hit dot, and since we told the user that there's an OK and a cancel, that's what we're going to select. So now anytime it detects that you have the box checked and you're running a deathmatch, so a first blood deathmatch, it's going to give the user an option as to which setting you want to take precedence, the first blood or the deathmatch. So now we need to parse the result. So if result equals dialog result dot OK, so this is if they decide they want to continue with a first blood match, and we need the curly brackets, and that's when we change it to Urakuan Hall. Else if result equals dialog result dot cancel, then what we're going to do is uncheck that checkbox. Since we haven't done anything else, we just need to uncheck the checkbox right now. So to do that, we go match selection form dot instance dot checkbox 1 dot checked equals false, and that will uncheck the checkbox, and that will make it so that when the match starts up, it will start up as a normal deathmatch without that checked. And since we added the no deathmatch check to the routines that run when we when the bleeding is detected, even if they check it after a deathmatch is set up, it won't do any good. It will continue to be a non-first blood deathmatch. So now that we've got that done, now that we've unchecked it, you just want to return because you don't want it to run these other commands down there. So it will if you select cancel, it will uncheck the box and then just return out of the code that sets the match rules, since it's no longer a first blood match. So those are the oversights and the checking for deathmatch situations that we wanted to go through to make this a more complete match that made more sense. And now I wanted to show you how to link this to the mod suite. And keep in mind, if you do this, it will require that the mod suite is installed and that the bloodstains feature is checked. If you do distribute this to other users, you need to make sure to state that very clearly. Otherwise, they will get freezes and you will get questions and people will be mad that your stuff doesn't work. So if you're just using this for personal use, just keep it in mind that you need to check off bloodstains as part of the mod suite. And if you're planning on distributing it in this format, or in the upcoming format, you need to make sure to state that requirement very clearly in your description. So in order to do that, we're going to add a reference, and we're going to go to Browse, and you're going to come into your FirePro World, FirePro Wrestling W_data managed folder, and you're going to select a reference to carlzilla.dll and hit OK. And you'll see it pop up here in your reference list. And Carlzilla, because it was based on Mike's framework before the patcher was real nice, it also uses the DG namespace. So you're already using anything that you need to use from Carlzilla to use the Carlzilla class, which contains all of the mod suite code pretty much, or all of the base code. So, now, remember the conditions that we set up for bleeding? Those can stay the same if you want, or because you're going to do levels now, so maybe we change the blood meter down to 100 or 150. That way, it more frequently updates the bleeding level. That way, you're not totally screwed when the match goes like 90 minutes because the blood meter had to get to 300 every single time it tried to do an update. So, what you're going to need to do now, and okay, I just noticed something that I also overlooked in the last thing. Do you see this random statement? So this picks a random number every single time this is run, and that's not actually what I intended. I'm just seeing this now. So what we're going to want to do is set up an int up here, a public static int equals, nope, you got to give it a name. So we'll call it min time. And then we're going to say equals, and then we're going to cut this Unity engine random range 8 through 12. We're going to cut that and paste it right here. That way, and now we're going to check against min time. That way the time is always the same for each match, instead of just randomly deciding every time the code is called. That'll make it nicer, I suppose. Less random, I guess, is a good way to put it, because we don't want it to be totally random. So yeah, now we've got this set down to 150, so you will more frequently bust people open. I might even set it down to 100. That way it makes it even quicker to do. And so with that done, you're going to come down here to the check match end blood, and you no longer want just if player is bleeding. You're also going to now need to check for the blood level. So in order to do that, you're going to call carlzilla dot, it is blood state, and then you're going to need the blood state in Carlzilla. It's an array just like what you set up when you did the blood meter, and it runs on an 8-place array because each place in the array corresponds to a player index. So in this case, we want to check against P's player index. So we're going to do p.plidx, just like you did when you checked against the blood meter up there. So this is going to be if Carlzilla blood state, and the index is going to be p.plidx is, let's say, less than 3. Or no, let's see. There are 4 levels and 3 in each one. So let's see. We want is less than 6 or 7. So if the blood state is less than 7, I think I added one too many of those. I did. Okay, so if the blood state is less than 7, return. Because you don't actually want to end the match until they're in that 3rd visual level of bleeding. And like I said, the blood state has 12 values in it, or it goes from 0 to 12, or 0 to 11, I guess technically. And 0, 1, and 2 is blood level 1. 3, 4, and 5 is blood level 2. 6, 7, and 8 is blood level 3, so this does need to be 6. I'm glad that I counted this off for you. And then 9, 10, and 11 is blood level 4, which is like the stuck pig level where it's all over their face and all over their chest. So we're doing the default level, which begins on 6. So if it's less than 6, you return. If it's 6 or greater, it will continue to run the match end code. And that's all you've got to do. That will literally that plugs it into the mod suite's blood states. It checks the blood state. That's literally all you've got to do to make this use the blood states instead of just a single bleeding event. And that's it. That's pretty much all I wanted to show you on this tutorial. I just wanted to add in those oversights, and I wanted to show you maybe how to use other people's mods if you understand them. Now that you have been poking around in ILSpy, you can open carlzilla.dll and look at all of the code that I've written for the mod suite. It's all available, and I'm not concerned with you people poking around in it and using parts of it or whatever you decide to do with it. If you decide to copy and paste code, please ask. It's just polite. And don't copy and paste methods wholesale without definitely don't copy and paste methods like wholesale without asking. That's straight up against the law, unless you've got permission to do it. So don't do it. Other than that, I don't have any trouble with you guys poking around. I mean, the source it's not open source. I'm not going to post the source for you to poke around in Visual Studio, but if you want to open up carlzilla.dll and ILSpy and see what I'm doing, now that you've got a little bit more basic understanding of what's going on in FirePro and you've worked with some things, and feel free to do so. It doesn't bother me at all. It won't bother me if you hook to methods that I've written already. It won't bother me if you use features that I've already included in your own mods. Like I said, if you do that, make sure that you make it very clear that it requires the mod suite and that it requires whatever feature you're hooking to be enabled. Otherwise, you're going to end up crashing people's games and they will be unhappy with you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to show you this time around. So happy coding, and I, like I said, I look forward to seeing people put out some First Blood mods. Feel free to add your own spins to this kind of thing if you feel comfortable enough to poke around and come up with your own maybe conditions or whatever. Um, yeah. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Alrighty then. Thanks for watching.